Hey guys, welcome to 2-Minute Terms Day. I'm Hannah, and in these videos I tried to teach you some ceramics terms in 2 minutes. Today we're talking about reclaiming clay, so we're going to define reclaim or recycle, slake, and pugmill. And if you're a little ahead of me and you're thinking, didn't she skip wedging? Well, yes and no. There was too much to talk about for wedging, so it'll be in another video. Reclaim and recycle are words we're pretty familiar with, and they mean pretty much what you expect. Simply put, reclaiming clay is the process of taking greenware or any clay that's unfired in any state of dryness and returning it to a like new or unused plastic state. That way, it can be reused and turned into new pottery. You might also hear this word used more like a noun or an adjective, where somebody might say, I'm just throwing with some reclaim today, or throw those clay scraps in the reclaim bin. Being able to reclaim clay means you don't have to have a lot of waste. You can always reclaim unfired clay. So whether it's a pot that didn't turn out the way you want, some scraps like bits of coils or slabs that you didn't use, or the trimmings from when you trimmed your throne pots, you can reclaim all of that and make new pots with it. The steps in reclaiming clay may look a little different from potter to potter, depending on how they were taught and their preferences, but basically you start by collecting your clay scraps and submerging them in water. And if your clay is bone dry, it will slake. Slake is a cool word, and I wish there was more reason to use it. If you've heard this word before, it was probably in a phrase like slake your thirst, where it means to quench or satisfy. But when we talk about pottery, it's a little bit different. If you submerge dry clay in water, it will slake, meaning it will completely disintegrate and break down into tiny clay particles, losing all form, all shape that it might have held before. If you're familiar with the idea of clay having a memory, this resets it, which is a great thing. Slaking makes it much easier to get your clay to a homogeneous, like new consistency. Not all potters let their clay completely dry out before adding it to the reclaim bucket, so some potters might use something like a mixer attachment on a drill to mix up their clay and make it more homogeneous. This step isn't really necessary, especially if your clay slakes down. To finish reclaiming, you'll need to dry your clay out to a plastic consistency. A lot of potters do this by spreading the wet clay out on a plaster slab to dry. And finally, you'll need to mix the clay to make sure that it's fully combined and that the water is evenly distributed throughout to get that good plastic texture. Most likely, you're going to do this by hand using a process called wedging. Wedging could have been a word in this video, but there are 3 types of wedging, and I wanted to cover all of that, so that's actually going to be our next video. Another way that you can mix clay is to use something called a pugmill. Pugmills are designed to mix a large amount of clay, so it's less common for individual potters to have one, and more common to see them at schools or shared studios or businesses where they need to mix a lot of clay. To use a pugmill, you put your clay or ingredients into a top-loading opening called a hopper. That drops the clay down into the main body, where there's a central spoke that has several spinning paddles or blades attached to it. This kind of looks like a drill bit or a screw. The blades mix the clay as they rotate, but while I was at the museum school, I learned something new while I was recording for this.
Because with the rotation of the paddles, the mixing, it moves everything to the back. And then with the pugging option, it'll change the rotation of the paddles, so it moves everything forward.
Not all pugmills have this mixing option, which reverses the direction the blades are spinning in order to keep the clay in the pugmill body. But all pugmills do have the pugging option. When pugging, the blades mix the clay, but the direction they're spinning also pushes the clay down the spoke into the pugmill body, compacting it, and extrudes the mixed clay from a hole at the other end of the machine. I feel like it's important to say that a pugmill can be dangerous. Just like any other big machine or power tool, there are certain steps, precautions that you want to take to make sure you're using the tools safely. The biggest danger with a pugmill is having a limb or loose clothing get caught in the blades as it's being loaded. As you can imagine, that can be dangerous to life and limb. More modern pugmills have built-in safety mechanisms that turn the machine off if, say, you open the loading door. But some brands and older models may not have safety features like this. But many people use pugmills safely every day. So if you're using a pugmill, just make sure to stay safe, pay attention to what you're doing, and follow the safety instructions. And that's it for today. Next time, we'll get fully into mixing clay by hand, talk about wedging and the 3 main types. So if you want to watch more in this series, here's the playlist for the 2-minute Terms Day videos. If you want to know more about Reclaim, here's my ASMR video on that. And if you're curious about slaking, you can watch my clay origami experiment, Slake Away, in this video.